Hello and welcome back. We're still having this conversation in Woodmead today, the latest in the series of New Age business briefings brought to you by the SABC. And safety and security is what we're looking at. We have the Minister of Police, the Acting National Commissioner, and also the Deputy Head of the Hawks as the panel to help us in this discussion. But we certainly want to hear from you at home and also the audience that we have here. And we've got a question from TT Sepuma who says, is Minister of Police looking to use drones towards public protest control? Is that your question or is that for you as the National Commissioner? Yeah.
No, let me say no.
Okay. So that's the official response.
But I suppose the relevance of that question, not necessarily about drones. It's about, which is a challenge, of course, that we need to confront as the police service, is to what extent do we utilize technology in enhancing our work as the police service? And I think that's an ongoing debate and an ongoing challenge within the police service. But drones, no.
Okay, but you can't give everything away, otherwise they'll prepare, won't they? Let me ask you, Lieutenant General, please can we bring up police corruption? Where are we with dealing with that? We know that it exists, we see it. A lot of people would say they experience it. Is it something that you're managing? Is it decreasing? Is it a battle that you're winning?
It will be a bit challenging, Peter, to say we're decreasing or managing, but we are investigating those incidents of corruption within the police, within DPCI, and in the society at large. So it is something that DPCI sees with that we have to investigate those matters. And I think as they are being publicized, it's not something that is being hidden, that hence the communities would know and be aware that there are police officers who have been arrested for being involved in corruption. So it is our responsibility, and we work hand in hand with even other departments. And within SABC, we have those kinds of investigations. So we are dealing with investigations of corruption within the organization itself as well.
Acting National Police Commissioner, I've suggested this before, and I don't know, maybe it sounds a bit outrageous and ridiculous, but special investigating bodies in other parts of the world do it often. Is there not a space for introducing lie detector tests within the police service? It's not for prosecuting, but if you as a police officer know that at least once a year you're going to have to go before this thing, it may stop your temptation to falling into corruption. Is that not a tool that you can use to discourage people from venturing into grey areas?
Well, the South African Police Service has established an integrity management structure, which is aimed at processing matters of that nature. We, in addition to the work that is done by the Hawks, have re-established our anti-corruption capacity within the detective services environment. Lie detectors are part and parcel of what we use as part of our instruments to do investigation, and there is also...
Yeah, but that's investigation. What about prevention? If I know that once a year, maybe on my birthday, I'm going to go answer 4 or 5 questions, and one of them might be, have you been involved in any corrupt activities?
But precisely, Peter, I'm saying we have that capacity. And that's why I started talking about integrity management, because not the polygraph test, which is what you are referring to as a lie detector, is not only there for investigation purposes, but also for processing the screening of
Which means-
members of the service. It is in place.
All right, which means some of them are beating it because the corruption is still there. But
No, I don't think so. And we have said before
Yeah.
that, somewhere the organization is being portrayed as an organization that is harboring criminals.
Yeah.
And we are acknowledging that there is a fraction in the police of people who we consider to be rotten
Right.
potatoes. And
Yeah.
those people are accordingly dealt with. And I know people take offense when we say it's a representative of society, because these people do not corrupt themselves. They are being corrupted by communities out there. And that's why we continue calling upon our communities to work together with the police. Just yesterday, at the graduation of the trainees in the Western Cape, we are calling on our communities not to get these members tempted by offering them bribes, because it is wrong in all respects.
Minister, are you paying these police people well? Because part of this issue is making sure we get the right caliber and rewarding them to such a degree that they don't get tempted to do these things.
Hey. I oftenly get asked this question, and it's a question necessarily that belongs to all the bargaining processes in terms of the conditions of work for members of the police. But I think, generally speaking, as the South African society, we tend to make a mistake. We tend to think that your level of pay is your point of satisfaction. And I think it's something that we have got to work around our own psyche, for an example, because that thing is actually not true.
Okay.
We need to look at different ways and measures, for instance, of how we deal with the working conditions in such a manner that we are happy when we have got to do our work, but not necessarily that it's because of the amount of money that I draw as salary, for an example. When I was assigned to this portfolio, I went across provinces and so on, and one of the striking things that I found was when members of the police were complaining about tools of trade, were complaining about all other issues pertaining to them having got to do their work efficiently and so on. And there wasn't a complaint about the question of the level of salary, for an example. And I think the lesson for me, and I think for all of us at leadership level, is the need to begin in earnest to deal with the question of the conditions of work for our members on the ground. How do we assist them to effectively do their work, and so forth. So of course, salary improvements will be an ongoing thing and so on, but yeah, that's okay. Really my take around it.
All right. We'll talk about the graduates and how you select police in a short while, but I think one area that we do need to address is what's happening in the taxi industry. And let's go to Philip Tybosh, who's at table number 10, to ask your question and your thoughts about what's happening. There's Mr. Tybosh there.
Good morning, Minister.
Yeah, morning, sir.
Peter and the panel there in front. I'm the president of the taxi industry, Sandton, in the country. Firstly, I would like to appreciate and congratulate the acting police commissioner for being the first senior police coming into office and demanding to speak to the taxi industry. It was very much appreciated because it was for the first time since the dawn of democracy. Thank you, Acting Police Commissioner. Minister,
Thank you.
Minister, my question to yourself, Minister, is the taxi industry part and parcel of the society of South Africa? And if the answer is yes, then why is it problematic to deal with issues of criminality and issues of killings within the taxi industry? Why don't we see, we see the arrest, Minister, but we have not come to a situation where we see successful convictions. And I believe that for as long as the taxi industry is regarded, or it regards itself as a law unto itself, we will continue having all these things which are happening in our vicinities as far as taxi ranks and as far as the killings within the taxi industry. Lastly, Minister, I want to know whether we cannot come up with a deterrent measures in ensuring that when Philip Tybos as a taxi operator is arrested for taxi activities or taxi violence and found guilty by the courts of law, which has not happened actually seriously in South Africa, and found guilty by the court of law, we do like what is happening in the law society, in your medical society, that we take away the license of the taxi operator, deny him the right forever to operate a taxi in South Africa. The same with a taxi driver. When a taxi driver involves himself in serious crimes, that even includes raping of passengers, that when that particular driver is found guilty, be able to take his driving license and prohibit him from getting back into the taxi industry. I'm saying as a taxi industry, we are not a law enforcer. We are merely a regulatory body which doesn't have the necessary powers to take away the tools of operation when such an operator is found guilty by the court of laws. Thank you very much.
Okay.
No, thank you very much for that question and the expression of the concern. Let me start with the last one for an example. The last one relates to, it's an industrial matter. In other words, it's a, let's say, a transport sector kind of matter, for an example, that has got to be dealt with in the various sort of structures, the plethora of structures that the taxi industry also participates in together with government, to look at regulatory matters, for an example, in terms of and some of the suggestions, in terms of some of the suggestions that Mr. Tybos just spoke to. The first question, are you regarded as South African? Of course you are South African. Now, and it is for that reason that in various provinces and nationally, there are continuous sort of engagements between yourselves as the taxi industry and of course, government around a number of issues affecting the taxi industry. But I'm happy also that you are acceding to one point, and that is killings do take place in the taxi industry when we arrest people. The question of successful conviction has got nothing to do with the police necessarily. It's more it's evidence-based. It's more to do with whether or not is there sufficient evidence for successful conviction. And for evidence, you require a number of factors and role players in there, amongst which is, of course, people themselves in the taxi industry. Are you able to step forward and say, indeed, we know that so-and-so and so-and-so is operating a particular cartel of hit squads, for an example, and here is evidence to that effect. Or we know, for an example, that there is a particular sort of a hit squad that has carried out a hit on so-and-so, and here are the relevant facts and so forth. And those are the facts that are always required to be at the disposal of a court for necessary sort of for the successful a conviction, for instance, when it comes to that. So indeed, I think it's concerning. I mean, most of our members, when you speak to them, you also do find this complaint that says, yes, we arrest people, but court processes are not ours. But at some point, you find that the very same suspects that would have locked away also being released, even in cases where we would have objected to bail, for an example. You find that bail has been granted and so forth, because the court would have deemed it necessary and viewed issues from a particular angle. We may not necessarily agree with such, but the fact of the matter is that would be the kind of rulings that we'll find, and that would impact, I think, negatively on the perception about whether police are doing their work or not. And the fact of the matter is that we are doing our work, but the entire value chain is not in the control of the police service.
Okay, so Acting National Police Commissioner, the question, and one of the points that he raised, which is quite interesting, and this is what we think, is why do they believe that they're a law unto themselves? How did they get into this space where they think that they can behave that way? Is it because we can't cope and that they are a law unto themselves?
I think there are many factors that need to be addressed in the environment, and I'm grateful that we are at that point where we are interacting. I think there are things that have to be concretized. Our engagement cannot only be between ourselves and the taxi industry. As the minister indicated, we need to bring the other authorities into the equation. But I think one of our problems, which is what we must be working together on, is the involvement of police people in that business. Policemen or women owning taxis. And that is not allowed. And if we can succeed in rooting that out, we will go a long way in ensuring that the cases get processed through the courts, and that we are able to secure those convictions. So we are acknowledging that there are some challenges, but we must accept that it is not one role player who's going to be successful. We need to get together. And maybe just lastly, on the cases, it may be necessary that we consolidate the specific cases so that we do thorough analysis of what had happened to those cases. If it means we bring in the National Director of Public Prosecution in looking at how speedily could those matters could be processed, let it be.
All right, we're going to take a break, but after that, I'm going to ask the Deputy Head of the Hawks about recent developments that have taken place around the world. Germany, France, we've seen terrorist activities taking place, and we got a scare recently when some people were arrested for what looks like links to IS and terror activities. Are we at risk? That's a question that I'm going to be putting to after this. Stay with us.